All right, so today let's take a deep dive into something I'm sure we've all thought about at one point or another, building wealth. And this video, we're looking at the untold truth about money, how to build wealth from nothing. Starts off with a pretty interesting visual. You know that one where they show a circle representing $1 million and then they multiply that by 117 to show Jeff Bezos' net worth?
Yeah, it really puts things in perspective.
It does. Kind of makes you feel a little small.
A little bit, yeah.
But I think one of the things I really liked about this video was how it challenged some of the common assumptions about money. Like the idea that we're all kind of stuck in this equation of money equals job, and the only way to get ahead is to work harder and longer.
Well, and they give a pretty compelling example to debunk that myth.
Yeah.
You know, they point out that even if you were earning $20 an hour, which is a pretty decent wage, it would still take you almost 24 years of nonstop work to reach that $1 million mark.
Yeah, and that's before taxes and living expenses. So it really makes you wonder, is there a more efficient path to wealth? This video seems to think so.
It does.
Yeah.
And it really boils down to this idea of stop chasing money and start chasing problems.
Oh, that's interesting. Kind of counterintuitive at first.
Yeah.
But then again, I guess you think about it, the most successful companies didn't get there just by chasing dollar bills. They solved a problem.
Right.
Like, think about how frustrating it was to try and find a place to stay, before Airbnb came along, driving around for hours.
Yeah.
Or like trying to hail a cab in a busy city before we had ride-sharing apps.
Exactly. They identified a real need in the market, created a solution that people were willing to pay for. And it all comes back to this concept of perceived value. The more value you provide to others, the more you can potentially earn.
Okay, I'm starting to see where this is going. But the video doesn't stop at just, find a problem and solve it. They actually lay out a 3-step equation to wealth.
They do, and this is where it gets really interesting.
All right, hit me with step 1.
So step 1 is all about finding problems worth solving. And that involves being incredibly observant, really listening to what people are saying. What are they complaining about? What are their frustrations, their unmet needs? What do they wish existed but doesn't?
So it's not just about coming up with a brilliant idea, sitting in your room. It's about tapping into real-world problems that people are experiencing. But wouldn't that just lead to creating a job for yourself, not necessarily building wealth?
Right, and that's where step 2 comes in. Create scalable solutions. Don't just solve the problem for yourself or a handful of people. Think bigger. Think about how you can create a solution that can reach thousands or even millions of people.
I see. So like the example they use in the video, the yoga teacher versus an online yoga platform.
That's right. The yoga teacher can only reach a limited number of students in person, but an online platform can potentially reach a global audience.
Right.
And that's where the real wealth building potential lies.
Okay, so we found a problem worth solving. We've created a scalable solution. What's the final piece of the puzzle?
Step 3 is all about leveraging automation and systems. This is where you start thinking about how to delegate tasks, build efficient processes, and optimize for maximum impact with minimal effort.
So essentially work smarter, not harder?
Precisely. And this step is crucial for creating a business that can generate wealth, even when you're not actively working.
Right, so that you can kind of step away and it runs itself.
Exactly.
That's the dream. But, building a business from scratch can feel pretty daunting, especially if you're not, a seasoned entrepreneur. Do you think these principles can be applied in a more, everyday way?
Absolutely. And that's something the video touches on as well. These principles aren't just about starting billion-dollar companies. They're about a problem-solving mindset that can be applied to almost any area of life.
Even within a regular 9-to-5 job.
Even within a regular job. In fact, adopting this mindset at work could be the key to getting that promotion or raise you've been hoping for. But I think we should explore that further after a little break.
Yeah, I think that's a great place to pick up. What are your thoughts so far?
I think it's really interesting how they frame this idea of wealth building. It's not just about grinding away at a job. It's about finding creative solutions to problems that people actually care about.
Yeah, it's a totally different way of thinking about it. And I'm curious to see how these principles play out in the real world, both for entrepreneurs and for people who are, just trying to get ahead in their careers.
Me too. I think there's a lot to unpack here.
All right, well, let's take a quick break. And we'll come back and dive into how this problem-solving equation can actually be applied to our jobs.
Sounds good.
So before the break, we were starting to talk about this whole problem-solving thing in jobs, but I think it's important to touch on some of the entrepreneurial examples that the video highlights. I think it does a good job of showcasing how some entrepreneurs have used this framework to really, build some pretty incredible success stories.
Yeah, well, the classic example is Amazon, right? Jeff Bezos saw this massive opportunity to improve the way people shopped online. And he built this business that revolutionized the entire retail industry.
Yeah, and that's a great example of how identifying a significant problem can lead to massive success. But not every successful business needs to be on that Amazon scale. What about the smaller, more niche businesses out there?
Right, you're absolutely right. And the video actually emphasizes that point. The size of the problem doesn't necessarily dictate the potential for success. The key is to find a problem that genuinely resonates with a specific group of people, even if that group isn't huge.
So it's about finding that sweet spot where a real need exists and you can create a solution that people are willing to pay for. But then how do you actually go from identifying a problem to building a business around it?
Well, it starts with understanding the needs and desires of your target market. Let's say you're frustrated with the lack of healthy meal options in your area. That's a problem you personally experience, but is it a problem that others share?
Right. You need to validate that it's not just a personal annoyance, but a genuine market need. But then there's that big leap, right? How do you go from, I wish there was a better way, to, I'm going to build a business to solve this?
Well, it often starts with brainstorming potential solutions. Maybe you start small, like creating a meal prep service for busy professionals in your neighborhood. Or perhaps you think bigger and envision a subscription box that delivers healthy, pre-portioned meals to people's doorsteps.
And that brings us back to that crucial element of scalability, right? You need to find a solution that can grow with demand and potentially even generate passive income, allowing you to build wealth even when you're not actively working in the business.
Exactly, and that's where things like technology and automation come into play. Think about how online ordering systems, delivery networks, recipe databases could all be integrated to create a scalable meal delivery business.
Okay, that makes sense. But I think a lot of people get hung up on the resource question, Like, how do you actually fund the development and launch of a business like that?
Right. Well, the video doesn't go into too much detail about the specifics of financing a business, but it does stress that there are a multitude of options available, from bootstrapping to seeking out investors.
So there isn't necessarily one right way to do it. It's about finding the approach that aligns with your goals and risk tolerance. But I think beyond the financial aspect, there's also the emotional side of entrepreneurship. Like, it takes a certain level of resilience to push through those challenges and setbacks, and a willingness to constantly learn and adapt.
Absolutely. And that's something the video really emphasizes. It's not about having all the answers up front. It's about being willing to experiment, to iterate.
Yeah.
And maybe even fail a few times along the way.
Yeah, those failures can be valuable learning opportunities, especially if you're able to, analyze what went wrong and apply those lessons to future endeavors. But, not everyone dreams of starting their own business. Some people are perfectly happy with their current careers.
And that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But even within a traditional job, I think this problem-solving framework can be incredibly powerful.
Yeah, I'm really curious to explore that further. How about we dive into that now?
Let's do it.
Okay, so we've talked about how this whole chase problems, not money thing can work for entrepreneurs. But what about for us regular folks with regular jobs?
Yeah, so it's all about shifting your mindset.
Yeah.
Instead of just seeing your job as a bunch of tasks to check off, start looking for ways to actually solve problems.
Right.
And add value to your company.
So it sounds like you're saying be more proactive. Like, don't just wait for instructions. Actually go out there and look for opportunities to make a difference.
Exactly. You got it. Become a problem solver, an innovator within your team or department. Like, let's say you notice there's this bottleneck in a workflow. Instead of just accepting it as that's how it is, why not try to figure out a way to streamline the process?
Yeah, you could be like the efficiency guru of the department.
Right.
But wouldn't that require you to really understand how everything works? Like the company's systems and processes?
It would. And that's where the real learning and growth happens.
Yeah.
By taking the initiative to understand how things work, you're not just completing tasks, you're gaining valuable knowledge, insights that could benefit your whole team or even the entire company.
That's a good point. And I imagine that kind of initiative wouldn't go unnoticed by your boss.
It definitely wouldn't. When you're willing to go above and beyond to actively seek out solutions, improve processes, you become a really valuable asset to the company.
And that could lead to promotions raises or even just greater job security.
Exactly. But I think even beyond the tangible benefits, there's also a sense of personal satisfaction, knowing you're making a real contribution.
Yeah, I love that. It's like finding fulfillment in your work by becoming a problem solver, even if you're not an entrepreneur. But it seems like a lot of this conversation about the equation to wealth, whether it's through entrepreneurship or a more traditional career path, it often feels like it's all about the money.
Yeah, and to a certain extent, that's true. Financial stability is important. It gives us security and options. But I think this video does a good job of reminding us that the real goal isn't just about stacking up cash. It's about what that wealth enables.
Yeah, like the freedom to pursue your passions, the security to make choices that align with your values, the time to spend with loved ones, or give back to your community. Those are the real rewards.
Absolutely. And those rewards are accessible to everyone, regardless of their job or income level.
It's about aligning your work with your values, finding purpose in what you do.
Exactly. And it brings us back to the core message of the video. Stop chasing money and start chasing problems. It's a call to action to use your skills, your creativity, your unique perspective to make a positive impact.
Because ultimately that's what leads to true wealth, both financially and personally.
Yeah, I think so. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this thought. What problem are you uniquely positioned to solve?
Yeah, what skills and experiences do you have? Because the world is full of problems waiting to be solved. And we all have the potential to make a difference.
So go out there, embrace the challenge, and see where your problem-solving journey takes you.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.